morning, everybody. Welcome to the February 18th, 2026 Staff Hearing Officer meeting. My name is Tess Harris. I'm the Staff Hearing Officer for today. And we will go ahead and get started on the agenda with preliminary matters. So I'll first start out with items A and B, requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of X agenda items. I have not received any requests. And item B, announcements and appeals. I also don't have any announcements for today or announcements of appeals that have happened from the staff hearing officer meetings. And so we'll now move into comments from members of the public for items that are not on the agenda today. So if you're here to speak on an item that's not one of the two listed, can go ahead and come up to the podium.
I would also just like to remind the audience that if anyone would like to speak under a specific item, you can fill out a speaker slip along that wall and bring it up to me, and I'll call your name under that item. But if no one is approaching the podium to speak under general, we don't have anyone online with us, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I'll give it back to you.
Thank you very much. So we'll close general public comment. And then move into item 2, the project. So we'll start off with item 2A for 201 Cooper Road. So I'll go ahead and read the project description into the record on the slide, which is on the slide as well. So it's the 8,250 square foot lot. It's developed with a 1,565 square foot one-story residence and a detached 405 square foot garage with a 434 square foot accessory dwelling unit above the garage. The project consists of a 355 square foot one-story addition to the main residence, a 42 square foot porch, and a 533 square foot rear covered patio. The total of 2,769 square feet is 85% of the maximum allowed FAR. The applications that are under my purview today are a front setback modification that would allow the legal non-conforming structure within the 20-foot front setback, an interior setback modification, which allows an addition to encroach 8 inches into the interior setback, and a CEQA determination under CEQA guidelines section 15301. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Broadison for staff presentation.
Kelly Broadison with Community Development. Thanks for reading the project description. As you stated, the project that we're looking at today is at 201 Cooper, and this slide shows the project's location on the western mesa south of Cliff Drive, and it's kind of just north of the ocean there. You can see Edgewater Way and Mesa Lane and Mohawk, so it's in that Cooper Road there. Here's a view of the existing residence, and you can see in the back there the garage with the ADU that was permitted and described in the staff hearing report, the staff report. Here's a site plan, and it shows the areas of the proposed addition. So this area on the back left is an area behind the house that's going to be an addition. It doesn't encroach into the setbacks. And then this addition here on the right, this mouse is not working. There it is. This is the area of a small bedroom addition that will encroach approximately, approximately 8 inches into the 6-foot interior setback. And you can see that it's in line with the existing non-conforming structure there, just above it. And then this area here towards the bottom of the residence, it shows that the existing residence is non-conforming to the front setback. So there's no proposed change to the footprint there. It's just additions that, it's not additions, it's actually changes to the front facade, raising the roof line and changing the windows in the front setback, which trigger a modification. This is a little bit more of a closer view of the proposed additions. Here you can see the small addition, the bedroom, and it makes more sense for the applicant to have it in line with the existing structure. And then here's the area that includes changes to the existing legal nonconforming within the front setback. So as I said, it's not increasing the footprint, it's just basically increasing the volume there. And then here's a slide showing the front entrance. And as you saw from the previous photo and the site plan, there's really not a lot of room in the front between the front property line and the entrance, and it's really kind of an abrupt entrance. And so the proposal is to make a more aesthetically pleasing entrance and kind of work with the floor plan to create a better circulation within the structure. And here's the actual elevation. So on the left is the existing elevation, because it's kind of just a very plain facade, very flat. And then here they're adding some more detail to it. And again, not increasing the footprint, but just increasing the volume, the roof line, and making it more aesthetically pleasing doors and windows. And that concludes, oh, let's see. So, yeah, so for the modifications, staff believes that the front setback modification and the interior setback modification are necessary to secure appropriate improvements on the site and won't have any negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And staff, the project was exempt from design review, so it didn't require to go to SFDB, as it's only one-story minor additions. And it will receive a coastal exemption. It's exempt from further coastal review. And for the CEQA guidelines, the project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under 15301, which allows for small additions to existing facilities. So that concludes staff's presentation. I do have the applicant, Matt Hepner, here, and he does have a little bit of couple little slides he wanted to show you how he took into consideration the neighboring property. And
Great, thank you.
And those just come up.
That's the plans. That's nice.
Okay, yeah, these are all.
Applicants.
Okay, yeah, here we go. So yeah, this was just a depiction showing our elevation, proposed elevation, as well as the neighboring property. This is all drawn to scale based on the records they have at the archives here. And so just to kind of get context of how the proposed changes that we're making would potentially impact, but I think this is meant to describe that it really wouldn't impact the neighboring property. As it turns out, yes, this proposed addition is in line with the existing master bedroom that's at the rear of the property. This particular portion of the building is adjacent to, as you can see here, a utility closet and the master bedroom closet of that adjacent property. There are, in addition, some images I have that show, so the area that we're proposing this addition is already developed. This is actually even more non-conforming because this extends to the front facade of the residence, so that is also additionally almost 5 feet within the front yard setback. Our proposed addition would pull back that portion that's within the front yard setback and aim instead to just provide a small bedroom here. We're requesting the modification is just a modest additional amount of space in order to achieve a decent-sized bedroom. Part of the proposal of the project is just to provide basically a modest-scale 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home for a small family, this being one of the children's bedrooms. Typically when I'm laying these things out, I try to stay at about 10 feet. This one, even with the addition, would still only be 9.5 feet wide. And again, lining up with the addition in the rear, which we see here, continuation of that line. Those two images and this one as well sort of show again the relationship with the neighboring property that inherently towers over it just because of the grade and the vegetation and the fence. So I think, it clearly shows that there would be no negative impact to that neighbor or for anyone else in the neighborhood for that matter. Other than that, I think Kelly's pretty much covered the bulk of the proposal, what we're asking for, and what our intentions are.
Great, thank you both. Appreciate the description and just the additional clarification. So I will first open it up for public comment. Ms. Carmen?
Thank
Pass
you,
it
Ms.
up to
Harris.
you.
At this time, I don't have any speaker slips for in-person public comment, though if anyone would like to speak under this item, you can approach the podium at this time. But I'm not seeing any movement towards the podium. We don't have anyone online with us, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I'll give it back to you.
Great, thank you. So I'll close public comment for 201 Cooper Road. Just a couple questions for the applicant before I provide comments. So wanted to first check, has the property owner, or have you connected with the neighboring property that's, have there been conversations, and has there been any concern from that property owner that
No,
was
they've
raised?
actually spoken with all of the adjacent neighbors.
Okay,
and had
great.
more in-depth conversations specifically with the woman who owns this property next door. This drawing I actually originally created for the conversation they had with her.
Great.
And she is in support of it.
Great. That's great to hear. And then my other question was actually more around, and this is, a little bit outside of typically what the staff hearing officer talks through, but since this isn't going to design review, had a question around the thoughts around stopping the addition and leaving the sort of open area in between the existing non-conforming structure and then the addition versus just pulling the addition all the way and connecting to, it was on, I think, the second slide that you had, Ms. Brodesson, that sort of drew me to that. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Or not, that's plans. So go back to the PowerPoint. I think it'll be easier, or we could do it on the plans as well.
The site plan or the floor plan? Kind of shows right there.
Yeah, this works. So this, bedroom 2 is the proposed, is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm curious what the thought is between leaving that space open versus just, if there was any consideration into just enclosing that and making it sort of one line all the way across and adding that additional square footage as well.
Sure. So, well, as far as that as well, like we're at our cap for FAR. We're at
Okay.
85%, so we don't really get any more without a big fight. And this is enough. They don't want anything more than a
Okay.
nice 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. But the driving force in consideration of exactly the placement of this is really the roof plan. So do we have any aerial pictures?
Aerial pictures.
Let's see. Yeah, this. Yeah, I don't know. You can kind of vaguely see. So the current house is an assembly of the original structure and about 3 different permitted additions,
Okay.
ranging from the 80s into the latest being 2011. And so what that's really resulted in is an odd roof structure where there was a gable running this direction. They added on with the gable running this direction, I think in 1999. In 2011, they added on a gable running in this direction. So we have this really bad area here that's like a flat valley cricket sort of situation that doesn't work well for drainage. And so when we first looked at where we might go with a new design and wanting to maintain as much of the existing footprint as possible, which essentially, let's see, so this is, existing floor plan being, this is the courtyard, right? So this is what the house currently looks like. And so we wanted to create a roof structure that would encompass the majority of that what is now existing area. And so that's where we've arrived with this one main gable that will do that, and then having smaller perpendicular gables that cover what in this case is an existing bedroom, in this case the kitchen addition, and in this case this second bedroom. So had we included this area here, it would have led to a very difficult roof solution.
That's really helpful. Thank you for describing that. It makes a lot of sense when you're, as I'm looking at the roof plan, why that separation of space is there. I don't have any other questions for the item. It's a 355 square foot addition with a porch and a patio. I do think that the request for the front setback modification and the interior setback modification is appropriate, especially given the non-conforming structure and sort of where it already exists, and that it's not really changing in the sense of the front setback modification. For the interior setback modification, it's a minor encroachment at 10 inches or less, and so just recognizing that is a reasonable encroachment. And then I appreciate the use, just the overall roof pitch, the use of clay tiles, the need to change the configuration of it for drainage purposes and to better align in that. I can also recognize a desire for a family to want to stay in a home and be able to have a little bit of additional space for family. So fully understand that. So with that, I will go ahead and make the findings that are in the staff report with those comments that I just mentioned. And then I will go ahead and approve the project at 201 Cooper Road. So the project is subject to an appeal within 10 calendar days of my decision. And any planning commissioner can suspend my decision if they choose. But otherwise, I wish you and the property owners the best of luck. And hopefully the process moving forward is seamless and construction can begin soon.
Yes.
So thank you for coming in.
All right. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Brodesson. So we'll now transition to item 2B for 1222 Shoreline Drive. So I'm going to go ahead and read this project into the record as well, and then I'll pass it over to staff for a brief staff presentation, and then the applicant as well. So the project, the 5,662 square foot site is currently developed with a 2-story single unit residence and detached 2-car garage. The project consists of a 206 square foot first floor addition to the residence. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer at this hearing are an open yard modification to allow the addition to reduce the required open yard below the 1,250 square feet and to permit the allowed open yard encroachments to exceed 20%. And then a CEQA determination that the project's exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15301. So with that, I will pass it off to Ms. Benessy for a staff presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Jillian Fennessy, Assistant Planner with the city. I'm presenting the project at 1222 Shoreline Drive. So here's where the project is located. This is an aerial and some street photos, as well as some photos of the rear where the proposed addition will go, is proposed to go. So it is a 5,662 square foot site developed with a 1,680 square foot 2-story single family residence and a 440 square foot 2-car garage. It is zoned E3, which is in the coastal zone, and the adjacent land uses include single-family residences to the northeast, west of the property, and Shoreline Park to the south, which you can see on the aerial. The required setbacks in this zone are a 20-foot front setback and 6-foot interior setbacks. As a note, the residence is non-conforming to the front setback, so it does already encroach into that 20-foot front setback. As I said, the project consists of a 206 square foot first floor addition to the existing residence, and here is a picture where you can see the proposed addition. It's at the rear of the property. And the required actions of the staff hearing officer today are an open yard modification to allow the proposed addition to reduce the required open yard below the 1,250 square feet and to permit the allowed open yard encroachments to exceed 20%, as well as a determination that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review under 15301. So some more about the open yard modification. The existing site currently complies with the open yard requirements by providing 1,250 square feet, and it meets the location standards and the minimum required dimensions of 20 by 20 feet. As you can see on the site plan, the addition would reduce the open yard to 750 square feet. Additionally, as a note, if the required open yard is reduced, the existing trellis and arbor would exceed the 20% encroachment limit. This encroachment would be approximately 33%. to comply with the encroachment must either be reduced to 150 square feet unless approved by the staff hearing officer. Consequently, the applicant requests a modification to allow the reduction in the required open yard area and to permit the trellis and arbor as an allowed encroachment. As you can see on the site plan, the applicant requests also proposes 500 square feet of usable open space in the front yard. However, this area cannot be counted towards the open yard requirement because it's entirely within the front setback. So I think you can see this on the site plan. So the green area is the proposed open yard, and the red area is the unusable, it's usable open space but can't be counted towards the open yard. Staff support for modifications is based on required findings, unique site constraints, and patterns of development in the area, as well as conforming alternatives. Open yard areas are intended to promote desirable living conditions, a sense of openness in residential developments, and ensure adequate space for outdoor living and recreation. Staff does not support the requested modification because a bedroom already exists on the first floor. Additionally, staff finds no significant site constraints that would justify a reduction in the open yard area. The lot has a regular shape and minor slope, which provides adequate opportunity to maintain compliance with the open yard standards. Therefore, staff cannot make the required findings that a reduction in open yard area is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot. And here is where you can see the site plan and how the lot is regularly shaped. It's a rectangle. It has a minor slope, and it is not a quarter lot, so it's not constrained by 2 front setbacks, which can be sometimes a hardship. And then here is the proposed floor plans, existing and proposed floor plans, where you can see outlined in red there is already a bedroom on that first floor. And the proposed first floor just expands it and adds more to the bathroom as well. So staff recommends that the staff hearing officer deny the project subjects to the finding B in section 7 of the staff report. And here's that finding on screen. It's kind of a long one, but there it is. And so we do have the applicant here, Kevin Capone, and they are requesting extra time to present their project since staff is recommending denial, and I'll hand it off to them. Did you guys want the plans? Or?
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I'll pass it over to the applicant.
Hi, Tess. How are you?
It's been a while. Nice to see you.
There we go. Okay, so we have a unique situation, so totally appreciate staff taking the time, and you've been great to work with, Genesis, so thank you. So we have a unique situation here. We have my client who lives here, and there was a letter that was submitted, which is on public record. She has a medical condition. She has early onset Alzheimer's, and so what we're trying to do is allow these people to age in place in their home. There's a big push within the state of California currently to allow for aging in place. It's actually part of the new code amendment that we're having to address what it means to try and keep older people in their homes. And with the cost of elderly care currently, especially within Santa Barbara County, I think these are really relevant things to consider. December 3rd, there was an HLC meeting where the proposal was to allow for a little bit better of a streamlined process for smaller lots to be able to reduce open yard requirements to 800 square feet as opposed to the 1250 to allow these types of additions. The 800 square feet was specifically slated for first story additions, which this is. I know that there's zone districts that this is being considered for. That meeting then went to Planning Commission. I know that Planning Commission then looked at that in January, and I think that there's going to be a findings in the spring for this exact scenario that we're talking about. The balance of our open yard requirement, in our case, which is a little bit different than what the staff proposed in that meeting, was that we're proposing a front yard offset to satisfy this rear yard requirement. I think what we're asking for is for this rear yard requirement to be reduced. Our proposal was to put that in the front yard, but if planning and the PLC and HLC decided, okay, 800 square feet is reasonable for these first floor additions on smaller lots, especially in light of the fact that we do have a condition where we're trying to provide this aging in place to happen, that I do think that this is a really reasonable request. We are fully in the backyard, absolutely willing to talk about what it means to make this work for the city and what the balance would be. But because of the unique nature of this and the fact that we are fully sort of invisible to public view, and we still are keeping that rear yard. Part of the request, the staff proposal was that in the front yard that you wouldn't be allowed to have more than 50% covered in asphalt. And I think you can see from this, the majority of our front yard, one, would not be changing. So the public perception of mass and scale, which is really what this whole open yard requirement is about, the public perception of mass and scale would not be affected at all by this first story addition. We're not proposing any encroachment in the front yard, and we're well below that 50% asphalt or paving hardscape requirement here. So I totally appreciate what staff is finding relative to this as it pertains to the land use codes we're coded today. But I think that staff is already recognizing within the city that if we're going to allow for people to live in their homes longer, that something like this would be appropriate. And I do recognize that in the existing house there is a bathroom. The bathroom is so small with that attached bedroom that we don't have the elderly pieces in place. We don't have the room for the grab rails. We don't have the room for the transfer and shower. And these are things that my client's actively dealing with. So that's our request. And we're hoping we can keep them in their home. The wife of my client recently fell down the stairs coming from the upper bedroom and bathroom where she actually has some of those facilities. And so we're just trying to keep these people in their home. And that's what the request is. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Henderson. I really appreciate that. Ms. Carmen, can we open it up for public comment?
Thank you, Ms. Harris. We do not have anyone in the room with us anymore. We don't have anyone online, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll give it back to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Carmen. First, Ms. Fennessy, thank you for your presentation. This is a hard one as a staff person to have to be here for. So I just want to first appreciate you and the work that you've done on the project and recognize that sometimes staff are really looking at the sort of black and white nature of the zoning code, and that is just part of the job, and it can be challenging. And that's also why certain projects do come up to either the staff hearing officer or the planning commission to make a decision. So I do want to recognize the work that you've done, and thank you for the presentation. I do plan to go in a different direction from what staff has recommended. So I will just note that right now and then make my comments. I also really appreciate, Mr. Henderson, the comments that you provided. I read the staff report. I've spent many times right across from this property and been there, as recently as this weekend. And so I'm very familiar with the area in general. I also read the letter that was provided both by you and then by the physician that your clients have. I can certainly sympathize with both and just recognize the desire to age in a property. I think that, that is what most people would want to do, is to be able to live in their own home. And I mean, what an amazing property to have, right across the street from Shoreline Park. I also recognize that while staff, focused on the open yard modification under their sort of their determination, I will take a different approach on that. I think particularly because of the location of this property, there are many people that are on Shoreline Drive in particular that use their front yard like anyone else's backyard, because you're looking right at the ocean. And so I do think that in this scenario, there is a very valid reason to include that 500 square feet as if we were looking at that as part of the open yard requirements. So, that is part of my decision when I'm making this. I also think, the 89% FAR, yes, it's a lot, but it's not maxing out completely. The addition of, I appreciate the addition in a one-story design. It's not adding any square feet on an upper floor. It's not going to have any impact to neighbors. It's an addition that's really sort of between the existing home and the garage. It's not going to appear as a structure that's different from either Las Ondas or Shoreline Drive. So I do appreciate that look. I can also recognize just a desire to, especially if you are not, as somebody may not be able to use stairs as frequently or want to, right? Because of the things that you had described, that even though there is a bedroom and a bathroom on the lower level, that if that is the location that they will primarily be in, that there might be a desire to have a larger space to live in, and then the need for a larger bathroom to accommodate just different requirements that somebody might need as they're aging. So fully recognize that. Let's see. I also, you had mentioned the HLC and Planning Commission meeting. I was going to bring that up as well. So there is work being done right now looking at certain lot sizes to reduce the square footage of open yard requirements down to 800 square feet. Now, this lot may be slightly outside of that overall lot size range, but the point in bringing that up for me is more that we are looking at how do we accommodate additional housing needs and keep as much open space as possible, but recognize that there may be a need to reduce open space in certain areas, particularly where you have a lot of open area in general to enjoy and experience. And this site certainly meets that. So with all of those comments, I am going to go ahead, let's get it back here. And then I want to actually, there's a couple other things just looking at the, one second. Looking at the findings for modifications under the Planning Commission and then the Staff Hearing Officer in Title 28. So I will go ahead and make the findings for the project. The modification, I do believe, is consistent with the purposes and intent of the open yard modification. I think it's necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot, being the minor addition on the property to add some space to the bedroom and bathroom. It also prevents an unreasonable hardship, and that hardship being, the need to or desire to remain in the owner's desire to remain in their home rather than having to look for something else. And I think it's a reasonable improvement given the other development in the sort of immediate vicinity. I do not believe that it is beyond what some of the other homes in the general area experience. It's also just looking at the square footage of this site. We're really not talking about a very large change. So I think the square footage is appropriate for the area. I also wanted to note, it's actually item 7 under the section on modifications granted by the Planning Commission or Staff Hearing Officer around accommodation of disabilities. And so while people may have different definitions of what a disability is, I do believe that a medical condition that results in somebody not being able to use the full extent of their property could qualify for this. So that's just to say that I believe that this project provides reasonable accommodation to the property owner. And so with that, I am going to go ahead and approve the project. The project is subject to a 10-day appeal period. A planning commissioner could suspend my decision if they choose within that 10 calendar days, but otherwise, I wish the property owner and you all the best of luck in the building process. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, appreciate it. And nice to see you.
Thanks, Jillian.